standing up in front of a large group of people and communicating, something, along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can challenge themselves through being involved in the project to get better at that thing. So it becomes a virtuous circle. Hopefully they learn about themselves and what they are good at, what they feel less comfortable doing, and they can practice workplace skills that they will need later.
Okay.
But while they're in this safe environment.
Yeah.
So it's all good in principle, but we haven't got there yet in terms of tracking those things. So that's, I think, something where. Are you interviewing Steve Kenning as part of the research?
Potentially, that name has come up.
Yes. So he's the chair of or chief executive, I say, of the Aspirations Trust.
Yeah, I'm speaking with Carolyn Barringer to start with.
Yes. Okay.
And then she'll kind of based on what I need, she'll put me in touch with Steve. So.
Okay, fine. So Caroline knows all about the AEP, and she was at the last session actually.
Yeah.
We've hit a little bit of a hiccup, which is that the students need to spend extra time doing some revision and AS preparation.
Uh-huh.
So the last session, then we had some good outcomes, but I think so that the students they've got 2 weeks away from the project in order to.
I guess my question is, and sorry, it's diverting from the original question. The AAP, how similar or how different is that to the CREATE framework? Because the CREATE framework is kind of the model that the studio school was built around.
Which framework?
The CREATE framework. The original studio school model was actually built around the CREATE framework.
Well, I don't think I know anything about that.
Okay.
I should probably find out about that, shouldn't I?
Okay. So when studio schools were kind of envisioned by the trust itself, the CREATE framework is what was in place. So I'm just curious, and
right.
Like I said, you might not be the right person to answer this. So
Sure. Okay. No, well, I definitely don't know about that. I know that project-based learning is something that's very important, not just as part of the AEP, but as part of other aspects of what they do.
Yeah.
And I know when we recruited Sylvia, because I was involved in that recruitment day, they all had to answer questions about what they thought the value of project-based learning was.
Oh, okay, so, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. So if that's an aspect of CREATE, then that's the bit I know about.
Yes. So the CREATE framework kind of focuses a bit on, it's an acronym for communication, real world learning. Oh, I'm going to completely now forget the rest of it. But if you'll hold on a second, I actually have it written down. If you'll give me a second.
Sure.
Here we go. It's the CREATE Skills Framework, and it's basically a framework that underpins kind of key employability and life skills as envisioned by the Studio School Trust. So yeah, there it is. Communication, relating to others, enterprise, applied thinking, and emotional intelligence.
Okay. Well, no, I mean those sound great things. We need all those in science, don't we?
Yeah. Okay, no, that's helpful. Maybe I'll chat with Julia and Carolyn and Lucy as to how come the AEP, if you will, versus CREATE. Right. Sorry, we got diverted because you were talking about the challenges and yeah.
So that I think is a challenge that I'm really keen for us to work out.
Okay.
In a positive way, and governors will then be able to kind of really talk about the AEP as a really positive part of what we offer. Because obviously it's a big chunk of what they do.
Yep.
During the day on a Tuesday. Well, it is what they do for that whole year. So I think we really need to see the value of it. And then I suppose one big, a particularly positive thing was when Yinch and I came to the school with the proposal of the virtual reality suite.
Yep.
And, I had suddenly had this thought that maybe, because at the moment I work at home, he works at home.
Yeah.
And he was really getting into this virtual reality as a new aspect of his business. And
yep.
so the whole house was filling up with equipment. So it seemed really sensible to ask school whether there was any space he could rent. So he started renting an office, and then he was very keen on the idea of offering the virtual reality capacity to the school as a whole. And it's not just for the Space Studio, it's for the campus, but it's in the Space Studio, so that you know, it's been used more by the Space Studio students so far. And we really found that the school was so receptive to the idea of, because they obviously had to put in quite a bit of effort themselves they had to refurbish a classroom and, you know, make all sorts of different arrangements for us. Yint had to go through the whole, obviously, the vetting process so that he could be on site.
Yeah.
We wanted to do everything absolutely properly, because hopefully this would become a model for the next person who thought of a great idea of something.
Like you said, they have the space, and it would be great to get people in. Right.
Totally. So that, I think, has been a real, that has been of benefit to the students, because it was something new that came in at a good time. It was a boost to the school as a whole. And Yinch has been able to work out ways for the students to become very self-managed in that space, in a way that I would learn from, you know, going forward. Even though, you know, over the years I've spent more time in school, he's kind of worked out a way by which there are virtual reality champions who have free reign within parameters that he has set, and he's trained them so that they can help then other students to access the technology as well. So I think the whole thing has become a very positive space.
Right.
You know, and then of course students have managed to do their projects in VR and that kind of thing. So I think the way the school embraced that as an idea has been a great success, and I'm really pleased that it's the kind of organisation now that takes up opportunities like that. It's got that resilience to it. It doesn't find things sound hard, so we don't do them.
No, I mean, that's important, right? Particularly when you're doing something so different.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And although I think there are still, I mean, you know that we're of course sharing teachers across the sides of the campus now, because it needs. I'm not sure that studio schools could sort of survive by themselves. You know, they probably need a kind of big brother or big sister school to be part of, because the kind of specialist staff you need. I'm not quite sure how that would work. Maybe they're not intended to be standalone, but you need a lot of really great staff, don't you, to run any school. And if you do it on a really small scale, I'm not quite sure how you would do that. So the model that Sylvia and the SLT are developing, I think, seems much more sustainable.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, is there anything else you think I should know about the Space Studio before we kind of finish up?
I think I probably said everything that relates to things I know.
Brilliant. That was brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
One thing I probably should mention is, did Sylvia recommend that you talk to Apos or not?
No.
Okay. It's probably just a time thing, because he's the former chair at Space. He's still part of our team. He's one of the people. He's the guy in aviation and robotics I mentioned.
I mean, I'm very happy to chat with him. I don't think Sylvia or Julia were aware that I was okay with telephone interviews. That may have been part of the.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm very happy to chat with him.
Great. I mean, he knows the whole the
kind of history of
Yeah. And he may have other views, because he's also a local business owner, of course.
Yes, of course. That would actually be very, very helpful. If you wouldn't mind actually making that connection for me, that would be great.
Certainly. Yes, I certainly will.
Okay.
Great.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Well, best of luck with what you discover.